Hello, world. Technical difficulty to start 2025, but that's all right. Hello, world. We are live. Welcome to the January 2025 edition of the Laravel Worldwide Meetup. It's hard to believe it's 2025 already. I was saying to someone that feels like a year that should be in the future somewhere, but here we are. It's a new year, new beginnings, but what we know we're going to be bringing you this year are more great talks and more great people from the Laravel community. Margaret, how are you doing? How's 2025 been for you so far?
I've been pretty great. It's crazy to realize that we've been doing this for a year now. So insane. But yeah, I've been doing awesome. Thanks, Dan. What about you?
Same. Yeah. It's moving along. We're on the doorstep of February already. Hard to believe. I'll say it again. But here we go. And yeah, like I was reflecting too. It's been a year now, and our first talk last year was Caleb Porzio, obviously Mr. Laravel Livewire, and kind of fitting that our talk today is Livewire focused as well. So looking forward to it. We're gonna have Josh out here in a moment, but before we do that, we have got a little bit of housekeeping to touch on. So without further ado, what do we got here, Margaret?
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. So yeah, welcome to anyone that's new to the meetup, and welcome back to anyone who's been a part of this meetup. We're going to run through some resources here. So if you haven't heard about Laravel News, it's a great resource ran by the great Eric Barnes. They have a weekly email newsletter, and you can check them out at laravelnews.com. They also have a podcast ran by the wonderful Jake Bennett and Michael Drinda, where they discuss all the latest Laravel releases in the last week. They have tutorials and happenings in the Laravel community. Next is Laravel Podcast, hosted by the wonderful Matt Stauffer. So this season, he's joined regularly by Taylor Otwell. And so if you want to learn more, you can check them out at laravelpodcast.com. Larajobs is another wonderful resource. So if you're looking to hire, you're looking to post a job, and really for all your Laravel job needs, you can check them out at larajobs.com. What we wanted to do this month is feature a couple of companies that are looking to hire Laravel and PHP developers this month. So you can check out Prompt Therapy Solutions, Not, Wild Alaskan Company, and The Number Company. We'll include their link in their job postings in the description below. So if you're a Laravel developer looking for work, be sure to check them out. Up next is Laracast. So big thank you to Jeffrey Way for running this awesome resource for anyone looking to build their Laravel skills. And it's really a platform to learn with others in the Laravel community. So check them out if you want to learn some Laravel. All right, for some upcoming events that's happening later this year, Laracon EU is just right around the corner. So tickets, unfortunately, are sold out, but there is a waiting list. So if you'd like to get on that, make sure to check them out at laracon.eu. It's going to be happening in Amsterdam, Netherlands. And that's, February 3rd and 4th. Up next is Laracon India. This is going to be held in Ahmedabad, India. So that's going to be March 8th and 9th, 2025. If you'd like to learn some more, you can check them out at laracon.in. Another wonderful online meetup resource is the GTA PHP User Group. So they are a wonderful group of developers, especially in PHP, that talk monthly, and you can check them out at meetup.com. It's in the Greater Toronto area. And again, thank you to our host for their support in relaunching this meetup. They have a great team of developers. So if you have a Laravel problem, they'd be happy to help you out. Make sure to hit them up at vehicle.com or go@vehicle.com. And also thank you to our sponsor, JetBrains, for being able to give away a couple of one-year subscriptions to any JetBrains IDE. So you can sign up by scanning that QR code, and the winners will receive an email from our team. So watch out for that email. And I'll pass it off to Dan to introduce our speaker for this month.
Thank you, Margaret. Our speaker this month, like I said, is going to be talking about something Laravel Livewire related. It's Josh Cirre. You've probably encountered Josh, either met him in person or you've encountered some of his awesome videos on the Laravel YouTube channel or across the social medias. Josh works in developer relations at Laravel, and today he's going to share a really kind of interesting tool that exists in the Laravel ecosystem called MingleJS. So without further ado, let's bring Josh in here. Josh, how you doing today?
Hey everyone, I'm doing pretty good. How are you all doing?
Excellent.
Fantastic.
We were when we chatted last week, I was taken back a little bit. That wasn't quite the same background I was expecting from all your awesome videos on YouTube and such. But I understand you're in the process of setting up a new office there, but things are looking good. How's that coming along?
Yeah, process of setting up, we just recently moved, so process of setting up a new office, new studio. The good thing is I have a lot of big plans for this space and a lot of kind of flexibility and new stuff. So I won't get to show all the new stuff in the office today, but that'll come shortly. So I have a lot of big plans, a lot of big goals.
Yeah, one of those things I'm sure that's a lot of work, but also exciting to do every time you get to build a new office and build out all those things, right?
Yeah, it's exciting, but it's also annoying too, because then you start to realize like all the things that you're like, oh, like this would be nice to have. And then you gotta like, like Amazon is great, but you still gotta wait, a day or two to like get the thing. And then it's like setting it up and you realize, oh, that's too short or that won't work. Or it's not good enough kind of thing. So it's a process. I always think I have everything I need. And then, 3 days, 4 days later, I don't have it.
Absolutely. It'll settle. It'll be good.
All right, cool. So I think we're good to go. If you are, Josh, if you want to go
Awesome.
ahead and share your screen, and then Margaret and I will just kind of step backstage, and we'll hear all about MingleJS. So without further ado, we'll hand things off to you, and we'll chat with you in a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm probably not going to be following the chat too much, but if you have any questions as I go, thanks so much for everyone for being here. I'm super excited to share this kind of tool that I discovered probably over a year ago that was created by someone by the name of Patricio. I think he's actually in the chat as well. Patricio on code on Twitter /s/GitHub as well. But this talk is entitled "Let Your Livewire App Mingle." So as I go, make sure if you have any questions about either what I'm talking about or just things related to this, if I can't answer them, I know Patricio, who is out here, will be able to answer them as well. So I always love to share things that I find, things that are especially in the Laravel ecosystem, the Laravel community, and things that I just find interesting in general. I do a lot of tinkering in my spare time. I do a lot of building, even if it's just little things like, hey, how would I use this PDF export Laravel Spatie package? How would I use this when I actually need that tool? And so hopefully the goal of this talk is to give you another tool in your proverbial tool belt to be able to say, hey, now that I know this exists, maybe that one time I actually need something like this, then it will come into handy. So this talk is entitled "Let Your Livewire App Mingle." So Livewire is great. Even on the Livewire homepage, Taylor Otwell said that IMO, that's in my opinion, for those who don't know, Livewire takes Blade to the next level. It's basically what Blade should be by default. So I love Livewire. I came from the JavaScript ecosystem back a couple of years ago when I started, 3 or so years ago when I started building in Laravel. I came from JavaScript. I knew React. I knew a little bit of Vue. I knew Svelte. I liked those things. I knew what the front end should look like and like what I liked about the front end. But when I moved into Laravel, Livewire clicked with me because I could call these things from the server without having to write a controller. And that blew my mind. And so I love Livewire. It's something that I am really passionate about, and most of my demo applications or just anything that I build within, whether that be like side projects or just demo projects or even larger applications, usually I start and reach for Livewire. Like, for example, you could have this public function save right here, and I don't have to create a whole new controller to do this, to create a new post and then redirect to /posts. I can just call it on the front end. And if you're here, you probably already know what Livewire is. But Livewire is great in the sense that it makes things like this easy. But ecosystem is everything. We're part of the Laravel ecosystem. And one of the things that really sold me on coming to Laravel, I always tell my story about like how I decided to start building in Laravel. And a lot of it came from a guy named Chris Sev, who just recently joined the Laravel team. He put out this Notion document about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, where they basically said, hey, these are the reasons why we're moving our project from NextJS to Laravel. And a lot of it came down to ecosystem. There's so much that not only Laravel as a first party gives you for free, but so many third-party systems. And while Livewire is great, it's not the same tenure as something like React or Vue or even Svelte, for example. I mean, we have things like Flux now, which help. We have things like Filament, which is built in Livewire. And a lot of those things make Livewire better, and I'm super grateful for them. But there's a reason why Vue and React are so widely used. Whether you love Vue, love React, or you hate Vue or hate React, or you just haven't even tried them, and maybe you're just still using PHP with Laravel and Blade, and you're not even touching Livewire, regardless of where you're coming from today, whether you're a Livewire expert and you know Livewire more than me, or you're a Vue or a React expert with Inertia, there's no denying that Vue and React have their place in the developer ecosystem. They have tools that have stood the test of time. They have people using them each and every single day. And the more you use a tool, the better it gets because other people are using it too. That's why Laravel, for example, consistently gets better. So the better the ecosystem, the better opportunities you have to find that one package or that one library or that one thing that you might need. So if you wanted to build a application and you knew that you needed either a specific library that was a Vue or React specific library, and it would be a little bit more difficult to just build that in plain vanilla JavaScript, or you know that your client's needs need this specific interactivity that is more single page application. You don't want to have to write all of that in something like Alpine. What are your options when it comes to writing within Vue or React and Laravel? Well, most people kind of already know this, but if you don't, you have Inertia, which is fantastic. It's great. I actually started learning Laravel with Inertia and with Vue, and I'm actually going to be on a panel tomorrow talking about Vue at the Vue school conference, online conference. But Inertia is great. Inertia 2.0 just released, and there's so many fantastic options and themes and features, just easy ways to make a React or Vue or Svelte application work fantastic in Laravel without having to write an API to connect the two. And then you also have like NextJS or Vite or Remix, and you compare it with the Laravel backend, where you say, okay, I'm just going to write all of my front end in NextJS or Vite or Remix. And then I'm just going to just pair it with Laravel when I need it. Maybe I need queues, or maybe I need a background job, or maybe I need, I don't know, a mailing system. And you can do all of that. It works great for that. There's a bunch of people building in this. Maybe you're one of them. So you have those options. But what happens when you need something more? What happens if you want to dive in to a Livewire app that has React or Vue mingled together? And that's where MingleJS comes in. Because a lot of times, if you're like me, most of the times you're reaching for those other options when you know that you're going to need a React component or a Vue component or a specific library, maybe something like ShadCN, or maybe something like Tremor, which is a graphing and charting library specific for React. And while there's so many things that are slowly moving to like vanilla JavaScript, even like React or Framer Motion, that is now just motion.js, a lot of the times they are moving to something like vanilla JavaScript, but it's still tricky to implement, and it might be better developer experience if you're working in something like React. And that is where MingleJS comes in, because if you're like me, you're someone who wants to build and move quickly. So I'm building like a new project, a new application, something to just test the waters, and I need to get something up and running. Usually that's why I reach for Livewire. But now if I need that specific package, do I rewrite my whole application, or do I mingle it together? So this is MingleJS. I'm going to jump out and kind of show the homepage right here. This is MingleJS. And this is, like I said, written by or created by Patricio. I believe he's still in chat as well. So again, this is not something that I created. I'm just a fan of it, and something that I actually learned about probably a year or so ago when he first released it. But there's some great options. There's some great opportunities within MingleJS, and hopefully I get to show a little bit about what makes it so special. But make sure you check out the website. That's minglejs.unitedbycode.com. But again, this is if I'm not mistaken, it's not production ready yet. I've used it in some of my production applications, but it's not necessarily production ready. It's still a very early release, just as a disclaimer. But there's a reason why MingleJS works the way it does. So of course, we could go through all this if we really wanted to, but why don't we actually jump into some code and I can show you specifically itself too. So let me open up my code editor real quick. All right, and we're going to go to this application and we're going to open it up. All right, so this is a standard Laravel application, right? Everyone's familiar with this. You have you have your routes, and let's just say that I have a route that I want a Livewire component on. Maybe we're doing something where we need to send something to a queue job. So maybe I want to say like this is going to be route view, and we're just going to say like send message, and then we can like send that message. Okay, great. Well, I'm using the Laravel VS Code application, so now I can just go ahead and create this quick blade. I'm just going to use the guest layout here, and I just want to go ahead and just create a new button. And in this button, I want to I just want to create a new Livewire component. So this is all very relatively familiar if you've been working within Livewire. But we're just going to go ahead and make a new Livewire component. And I want to call this, I don't know, send message. There we go. And then I can go ahead and put this in here, right? We can go Livewire, send message. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this up in our browser. So this is all fairly standard in the sense that we're running the Livewire component now. And if we go to send message, we have nothing yet. Let's see. Did I send message? We have the view of send message, and we probably don't have anything in the actual send message Livewire component. So we'll go ahead and say, hi there, Laravel Worldwide. Perfect. And there we go. Hi there, Laravel Worldwide. So this is great. This works perfect. But let's go ahead and wire this up. What if we needed something like React to use in this Livewire application? Because of course, yeah, we could do something like, a button, and we could send this message, and then, we could have in our send message Livewire component, we could say, we want this to send message, and we'll just go ahead and die and dump this. So now we have all of our Livewire functionality hooked up, of course, right? We're not touching anything else besides Livewire. We send message, we die and dump. This is great if you're using just plain Livewire. But like I said, a lot of the times, if you're using an application, maybe it's too tedious to write something that is more client-side stuff, that it would be just great to ship a specific component library or something that is in React. For example, there's things like Motion.js that would be, while they do have a JS-specific library for it, it means you're hooking it up to maybe Alpine within a Livewire application. And so there's a React version that just makes it a little bit cleaner. Or there's something like Tremor, where you have these dashboard components and charts that, to be honest, if I was to build this from scratch, it would take a little bit of time, especially if I was to build this within something like Alpine.js. Of course, there's some great options already out there for something like Alpine.js, but again, React has and Vue has that seniority in the same way that Laravel has its seniority as an ecosystem as a whole. So what happens if we take this Livewire application Again, super basic. We're not going to get into the styling aspect of it as well, just the functionality. What happens if we wanted to actually connect this to a React component? And the good thing is, MingleJS makes that happen. I've already installed MingleJS. There's a whole section on the website for installation and setting it up. But this is what this would look like. If I wanted to create a new React component within my Laravel Livewire application, it's as simple as saying PHP artisan make, and then we'll actually, is it Mingle? I think it's make Mingle, sorry. Make Mingle. And then we want to do a React component, and I'm just going to call this, maybe we'll say, maybe we'll say send mess. We'll call this, let's do this send React message. All right, and now I have this send React message.php that was created, and you look at this send React message.php that was created, and you look at this, and this looks fairly similar because this looks like a Livewire class. We have a class that extends a component, and that component is still a Livewire component, but then it implements this has mingles directive. So we're going to dive into the code specifically, just so we know what's going on. And then we're going to see like what that actually looks like implementing that in the React component itself. What it does is we just have a component that returns a specific JavaScript implementation. And the cool thing is we can send that component any specific data. So if I wanted to say our specific message would be, hello, Laravel Worldwide, all of a sudden we're not just, it's similar to Inertia where we're pushing props to our component, but we're doing it all within a Livewire class. So now in our send React message.jsx, we can accept anything that we're sending from that Livewire class. So not only do we have the ability to grab specific messages like in our Mingle data, but then we could also display those messages because we're already accepting them. So if I wanted to say, like this is the message, or maybe I'll just go like this. This is the message, and then there we go. And the good thing about this is that I am not kind of like pushing this React component, and then I have to call like an API, and then I'm pushing that into the DOM element for React. All of that's handled for us within MingleJS. So if I wanted to hook this up to this send message.blade.php, or actually I'll probably do in the, I'll probably go in, I'll probably go for this in the send message blade file that we have. And now I can call Livewire, and then we're going to send React message. And this is something that I think we have to do currently. I could be wrong on that, but then we're going to go send React message to bring this in for Vite as well. So what this is doing is bringing that Livewire component. You'll notice we're not saying like this is a PHP component or anything like that. This is a Livewire component that I'm displaying on the page as well as my original Livewire send message component. So if I go back, all of a sudden, now we have this separate, let me go ahead and even just clear out this original Livewire component. Now we have a React component. This is something that is built specifically in React. I can do any React stuff in this component because it is React first and foremost. You can see here that we have our send React message with a console log that was in our original JavaScript send React message as well. We are console logging that specific message, but then we're also displaying it too. And that's the neat thing about MingleJS is, yes, you can use Livewire just as you're normally used to using Livewire, but you can also use a React component and mingle it in together. So let's do some crazy stuff. Let's say we wanted to do the same exact thing of where we wanted to start a job. And so what if I wanted to, in a button, I wanted to say, we're going to wire call, and then I want to call, let's go ahead and call send server message. Okay, this isn't hooked up anywhere, right? We don't have the send server message, but because we're passing this wire prop into our React component, now in our send React message Livewire PHP class, all of a sudden I can just create a new public function send server message, and I can go ahead and do whatever I want here. Maybe I could create a new job, or I wanted to just go ahead and die dump, and this is a server message. Now, the neat thing about this, I don't know why I left it. This is what I get for letting Copilot write my code, but I left the message as double it. So we'll say send server message right here. All right. So if we go back, send server message. Now, that's pretty crazy, right? We wrote React code, but we're talking to our Livewire application, and we are sending a server message without having to write an API to do anything else. This is hitting our server, it's hitting our Livewire class, and it's actually running this die and dump function. We're talking to the server. Okay. That's pretty crazy. That's great. Again, this is the reason why I started using Livewire, is because I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't know enough things about, I didn't like writing controllers. It wasn't something that I was used to writing React or Vue or Svelte, because I wasn't used to like that model view controller imperative. But this means I could write a React component and then just call a public function, a method, just like I would within Livewire. So great. This is working. This is working good. But again, we passed in some data. Okay, that's great. We are calling specific methods on the server. That's 90% of what most people might need within a React component, because now we can write our React, we can return all this, we can do all of this client side, but at the first moment that I need to touch the server, we can just use this wire.call, and whatever method is available in that Livewire method, that Livewire class, is now available in the server. Now, that's all great, but what if we wanted to go one step further? For example, what happens if I want to, maybe I have a Livewire component that I want to actually interact with a React component? Okay, I've already kind of set this up, but we have this, let me go into my web routes here. I have this, listen.php component. Actually, it looks like I didn't set it up in this application. So we'll set it up together. So I have what I want to do is I want to connect to we'll go ahead and we'll probably keep this, and we have a listen.php class. What I want to do is let's go ahead and create a new Livewire component. So let's see, PHP artisan, we're going to make a new Livewire component, and let's go ahead and say we want to interact with React. So we'll just go ahead and say this is declare React. There we go. So in our declare React, we'll go ahead and create a new web page for this. We'll go ahead and say that this is, we'll say route view, and this is a declare. And so we can call the declare React, or we'll just call the declare view. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create this. So declare, create the missing view, and we're going to say that this is the the guest layout, and I'm just going to say that this is X, or actually I'll go ahead and say that this is the Livewire declare React. think that's what I called it, right? Yeah, we have declare React. Oops. Declare.blade.php. Perfect. So in our web routes, we have the declare route. We're going to declare.blade.php. And what we want to do in our Livewire declare to React blade.php is we just want a simple, let's say we're working in a very complex dashboard. And most of our dashboard is in Livewire. But for some specific purpose, we need a Livewire or a React component that's, I don't know, maybe this is a loading component, or maybe this is a specific client-side component that we might need. Maybe this is our actual charting dash, but we need it so that when a user clicks a button, we want to do something within that React component. You know, in Livewire, you have the ability to send events. And you might be thinking, okay, this could be complicated because I want to send an event to a React component that is rendered by a Livewire class. I don't know how I would do that. Well, actually, it's fairly simple, because if I was going to say wire click equals declare in our declare React Livewire view, you might think, yeah, what you would do is declare, and then we might do something like this dispatch, and I want to say maybe like declare. Okay, because if I was writing a new Livewire component, I would then listen. On declare, I want to do something, whether that's on the server side, or there's ways to do it within like Alpine.js or something within the client side as well. And the good thing within MingleJS is it makes that incredibly easy too. Because if I was to go ahead and create a new MingleJS component, I'll go ahead and say make Mingle, and I'm going to say listen here. There we go. Listen here, and we'll go ahead. Oops. Probably because I accidentally added this here. So go ahead and do that. We'll call it a React, and we'll say listen here. Oops, I messed it up because I didn't actually do like the React piece. There we go. Okay, we'll create a React component. Listen here. All right, there we go. So now in our listen here Livewire component, this is our MingleJS component that we're pushing to our React component. And again, all of this can be done within Vue as well. I'm just using React for this particular application. But now I can say a public function. Maybe I'll just say, we'll go ahead and do something. Because now you're like, oh yes, on declare, I want to do something. I'll bring this in. So on declare, this is standard Livewire attribute. I want to do something. In this case, maybe I'll die and dump, and we say we did something. Okay, that's all great. And that probably would work as you might expect, because if now in my declare React Livewire component, we have this button in our declare blade. We're already pushing it in. So this should work as you expect, but I guess one of the things that we might want to also do, because we are pushing this within Livewire, is we also want to dispatch to a specific component. So I'm just going to say to, and then I want to say the listen here class. And this is just helpful within Livewire if you wanted to dispatch an event to a specific class that you know is going to be listening for it. And in our use case, if we're pushing this to a specific React component because we knew we wanted to do something with it, that would be what we would want to reach for. Okay, so if I want to go ahead and go to declare, we don't have a React component on this page at all. If I was to declare it, nothing's going to happen, right? We're dispatching to a specific class that is not actually initiated on this page. So why don't we go ahead and do that? In our declare.blade.php, we'll go ahead and say, I think Patricio on code mentioned that I probably have something missing for my specific setup. I tried to get it right, but I might have something specific that I am not doing properly. But now I want to go and in my Livewire, I want to say listen here. Again, that's that component that we did for React. And now I'm refreshing, I'm going to declare, and we have that done and done. Okay, that's working great because we're not actually using any React, right? This is just technically two Livewire components talking from one to another. We did something. We declared it, we did something, we're talking to the server in another component. Again, two Livewire components talking together, not super flashy, not super exciting in a lot of ways, but can we do something even better? Well, we can. So in our listen here JavaScript, this is our React component. Maybe we want to do something on the client because that's what we're all here for. So what we could do is wire.on declare, and then we're just going to do something in the console instead. Again, this is now the server talking to our server Livewire component and then pushing it to the client. Does this work? Let's see. Because now we have declare, and I probably messed something up. Let's see. Wire on declare, and am I actually calling the okay, we have Livewire listen here. I think that's proper. Let's see. Livewire listen here. We have our declare React. Oh, that's why. We're not actually declaring React. We need our JavaScript of listen here. So that is going to be the listen here.js. There we go. There we go. Now declare, and now all of a sudden we have I probably am still missing something here. So live demos, everyone. This is what happens. So we're going to take a look at the documentation because that is exactly what you do. I probably missed the spelling one. So in events, we have the ability to read it from the JavaScript as well, where we can say props.wire.on. I think I was doing that, but maybe I missed something up. Let's see. We have listen here.jx. We have our props already destructured. So we have wire on declare. I might not have called it declare. That's probably why. Naming is important. We have on declare, do something. It's probably because we don't want it to talk to the server anymore because we're only wanting to interact on the client. So now if I click declare, we still aren't doing anything. Okay, well, I probably am missing something there. But the cool thing is when we when we use events within Livewire, you can also use those events within your React Mingle component as well. So for example, I can now talk from one component to another, from a Livewire component to a React component, even though there's still two PHP Livewire classes. Not only can we do something on the server, but we can do something on the client as well. And the docs are going to be like the setting stone for that, where not only can we emit things from backend to backend, but we can also dispatch things from the client as well. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about one new thing that just kind of shipped. There actually are docs for it. I was talking to Patricio before about how because most of the time within your React component, you want all the niceties of Livewire, like those methods that we can talk to from client to server, and you want the ability to be able to write React. That's usually, if you're reaching for something like MingleJS, you just want the ability to write React, but without having to redo your whole application or somehow work your way into transpiling an Inertia application, but only for a certain set of pages, because what if you only wanted a component on one page? Again, the reasons why are fairly standard, but you also want those niceties as well. So we're going to go back into my code. I already set this up where we have this Mingle demo Vue. What we're doing here is bringing in this to-do manager. I have a list of to-dos in my backend, and I want to then push those to-dos into the front. And this works just like how you would expect if you're pushing any props from your backend to your front end. You have to-dos, and now you have to-do get. I only want to grab the ID and the title, and then I want to push those to an array to the front end. Well, now that we have our to-do manager React component, we'll just say, hi there, Laravel Worldwide. But now we have exactly what we would expect. We're already initiating the to-dos because they're our prop from the front end, props.mingledata.todos, and now we can just map over them. Okay, this works great. But let's go ahead and what happens if we have actual server expenses? Because in this, a lot of times, if you're sending this kind of data to your front end, even if it's a Livewire app, if it's an Inertia app, most of the times you need something that is going to be, it's expensive. It might take a couple of seconds. And here in my to-do manager, I've actually said in our mount function, I want to just sleep for 2 seconds. Well, I already have this set up, but MingleJS has the ability to do lazy components, just like you would expect within a Livewire application, and even within Inertia.js now, that there are kind of like these placeholder components that you can wait and defer those loading until you actually have that information in. And it's as simple as putting a placeholder, just like you would in a Livewire class. And then at the top, we just bring in this lazy attribute. So now, if I was to go to this Mingle demo page right here, we're expecting this to wait for 2 seconds because it's sleeping. We have this little spinner, and then we get the information that we need. All of those to-dos that we're pushing to the server that we're looping through, all of a sudden we have the ability to have this lazy component. You can see how this could be very useful if you had a full server rendered application, maybe one Livewire component needed to do something, but now you needed a React component on your page. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have to just have that component be blank or have that component wait for all of the other components to load. Now you can just have that one single component be lazy. There's so much other stuff that MingleJS makes easy, but most of the times I'm using something like a specific React component, a specific React library, or just something that I know would be easier in React than trying to find a way to do it in vanilla JavaScript. And that's where I think MingleJS actually shines. Letting your Livewire application still be a Livewire application, still be able to have the ability to write specific functions, or being able to pass data, or even methods that now I can call from my React component or Vue component, but now I don't have to choose one or the other. I don't have to choose the DX nicety of Livewire and also miss out on things like React, or I don't have to choose the awesome abilities of Inertia and React, but then I have to make sure I have to have a controller for everything and a route for everything to make sure that all of that's working properly. And again, there's a time and place for all of that. But if you're wanting to move fast, MingleJS works great for that, because now we can take our Livewire application, maybe our existing Livewire application. Maybe you have a Livewire application like I do that's in production, that's thousands upon thousands of lines of code, but I haven't refactored it because I just need that one specific piece to be a React component. And that's where MingleJS comes in, because now you can take your Livewire component and you can actually mingle it. And that's where I think MingleJS works fantastic. So thanks so much for letting me share it with you. Again, Patricio Onco has been in the chat putting it together, but he's the real mastermind and the brains behind all of this as well. But I'm excited that I get to show a little bit as well. So I think right now we'll move into probably taking some questions.
All right, thank you, Joe. I got a little sound effect that I hope comes through here. gotta
Great
say,
job. Great job.
big shout out. I mean, giving a presentation of any kind in front of an audience is a daunting task, but a live coding presentation is even more daunting. And you crushed it, man. I know you ran into maybe a little bit of an issue there but minor and all things being said. So fantastic job with the live demo, Josh. That was great.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. I think first off, I think one of the first comments you made kind of resonated with me, and I had a similar thought to leading into this talk, and I was looking over some documentation and stuff, and it's the kind of tool you're not going to need all the time, but
Yep.
I think when you may need it, when you're in that situation, knowing that it's there is really nice, right? And it may be the kind of thing that you could reach for and be really helpful, right? So I think that is definitely true, right? It's like you kind of think in some ways, it's as you kind of understand the philosophy of Livewires are going to help you kind of stay in PHP, stay away from getting heavy into JavaScript, right? So why would you want a tool that allows you to use JavaScript in Livewire? You wouldn't be using Livewire. But I think one of the things I've encountered in working in software for a long time now is like there are lots of reasons why the code is in a certain spot, and you may be needing a certain thing at a certain time. Who cares what those are? The fact you need them is you need them, right? So I think totally knowing that tool is on the shelf and knowing that you can reach for it when you need it is huge.
Exactly. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Knowing the tool is on the shelf. Because I think that's, when you're building an application, most of the time you reach for familiarity. That's a lot of times why now I reach for Livewire a lot, because I just know it. I know if I look at an application, this is how I would build this in Livewire. But now I also know that I'm not limited to a lot of times if I want to do connect to the server, but not write a whole bunch of client-side JavaScript. While Alpine.js is great, a lot of times there's things that have already been solved for me. And if I could just pull in a React component for that one thing, then it makes great.
100%. Yeah. A couple of things potentially I was kind of brainstorming, like, where could I, find myself reaching for this, right? And I think that even the documentation speaks to it. One could be sort of I think of a transitionary tool almost, right? And I say that in like, you could maybe potentially have a Vue or React heavy application and want to move to Livewire long-term, or vice versa. Yep. And I can see a tool like this being really handy, being able to bring it in and start introducing things, kind of piecemeal as you go along, as opposed to having to make a full transition. Another one that struck me, again, a bit of a contrived scenario, but you could find yourself in it, is like maybe you're in an organization that has multiple applications, different tech stacks across applications, and there could be components that are used in another application that are mostly do what you need them to do. Being able to pull those in and not having to rebuild them, so to speak, in JavaScript might be really helpful as well, right?
Exactly, because I think what helps there is, and even like there's a lot of people who are moving to Livewire applications, but they still have like a Vue SPA, or maybe they're using just Vue inline with Blade for specific interactions. And now maybe you're not fully even moving into Livewire, but you still want to have that the niceties of Livewire. Maybe you have, you're just incrementally moving to Livewire. Now you don't have to give up those Vue interactions that you have as well, if you didn't want to fully move into Inertia.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Margaret.
No, I just had a comment about that too, because I was wondering how to make components feel native when you're kind of going from like React Vue and using the Livewire app. So I feel like I kind of answered a little bit of that. So thank you. And then also just to kind of like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Josh. We're going to say something there.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that being native is the more important part, because a lot of times you reach for developer experience when you're looking for a new tool, rather than just the functionality of what that tool provides. So I think the ability to say, okay, I have my full Blade component, but now I just need that one thing, just like you would within Livewire. Now you can just do it within React too.
Yeah, for sure. And it was really cool seeing in the comments, like there's somebody, I think Carlos mentioned that he's actually learning Livewire for the first time this week. And so learning all the different components and all the different things that you could do. I guess just general question for you. What was your kind of like onboarding, like ramp up process, integrating MingleJS into the ecosystem that's kind of already built in there? Do you mind speaking a little bit more on that?
Yeah. The process of installing MingleJS is actually like fairly straightforward, because even for my fairly heavy Livewire applications because one, you can use Vue or React within MingleJS, and you don't have to choose one or the other. You can use both Vue or React, maybe even both within a single application. But two, it's incremental in the same way that Livewire is incremental. So a lot of times I don't do this as well as I should, but usually most people recommend, hey, if you're building an application, you start with Blade, and when you need a form or you need something like that, then you can just pop in a Livewire component. Usually I'm the opposite, and I start with like a full page Livewire component. So it's not what I should be doing, but the good thing within MingleJS is once you have it installed, then I can just pop in MingleJS or React Livewire component wherever I might need it. And it doesn't have to affect the rest of my application. It just lives in its own little containerized state.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's a few questions in the chat here. So I think you've already touched on already, but we'll throw it up here. So Manjeet asks, does Mingle, I think, work with both React and Vue at the same time in a single app?
Yep, it does. It does. You do have to have both React and Vue installed, and if you wanted to use like hot module reloading, like put them in Vue and React within like your Vite config and everything. But yes, you could have in one page have a Vue, React, and Livewire component all together, and they would be talking to the same database, have different Livewire classes that push to those components. You can't have one Livewire class that pushes to a Vue or React Vue at the same time, but you can definitely have them working in the same application together for sure.
Cool. Yeah, again, it's probably an odd scenario. You'd find yourself using both React and Vue at the same time.
Never know.
You never know, right? The tool's there if you need it. On a similar vein, we have a question here. I wanted to use an npm package in my Mingle component. Do I define that in my package JSON at the root level and import it as usual?
Yep. So I can probably actually share my screen again because I forgot to talk about this. I have Motion.js installed here. So if I was to go into my motion.php, I'm not doing anything other than having in my package.json, I have React or I have Motion installed. So I just npm install Motion, but now in my motion.jsx, I can just import that at the top and it works as you would expect. So this is nothing, it's not talking to the server at all, but I'm just pushing this into a React component that's containerized in my Laravel application. All of those niceties work great. So yeah, you can definitely use this any JavaScript component, any React component Vue library that you're wanting to bring in. You would just use that as normal in your .jsx or .vue file.
Yeah, that sounds great. Question here. I mean, this is very generic, but what about performance? I don't know. What about performance?
What about performance? I am not the best at talking about how great it is. Patricio on Code, and also there's a page on it's called I believe it's called Why MingleJS, or maybe it's just What is MingleJS or something like that. But it's talking a little bit about how it actually works behind the scenes in the documentation. And I think the performance is exactly what you would expect from putting a React component. If you were to push, what it's doing is essentially taking your React DOM or your Vue DOM and placing it on the stage, and then just using AJAX requests to push in or pull information. So I think the performance is exactly what you would expect from if you were using a Vue SPA or even just like a Vue component on your page and you're kind of rendering that to a specific root element. So I don't think the performance is any much different than if you were using those React or Vue in those situations. I think usually where performance comes down to within applications like this is, are you talking to the server when you should be, or are you keeping things on the client? And usually that's tough within Livewire because you think, oh, if I want to counter, I want to make sure I have a add count public method, but you're talking to the server there. So performance is going to take a hit. But within React or Vue, it kind of makes it easier because you're used to doing all that on the client anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So Josh, would you say this is a good resource for like maybe anyone else who's maybe hesitant and might like overcomplicate their Livewire apps? Like going to look at this documentation would be able to solve a lot, because we just put that in the link description below as well, and then people can check that out there too.
Yep. I think the documentation does a great job, and looking at some of like the demos and demo source code to see exactly what that is showing. But yeah, I think it shows a lot, and there's specific pages on how to use it within like something like Filament or something like that as well. But yeah, I think it's, if you think about it as being containerized within your application, it kind of helps, at least in my mind, it helps me think, okay, I'm not necessarily bringing React and it's leaking into my application, but in this one specific frame, I have a React component.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, I mean, any chance to kind of see how you work and how you like think about things, I think is super great for the audience, or even just for myself. And yeah, even in parts of your talk, just kind of seeing how you think through things is very enlightening. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
I think, and again too, like there's so many different possibilities. The more I think about it, of like different ways you could do things with the tool, right? And some of them are probably better ideas than others. But again, knowing that that it's there and those are possible is pretty cool. One thing that, or I guess the question I had was, do you have in your using MingleJS and actually integrating into some applications, do you have any tips or advice for people in terms of implementation? And I say that thinking along the lines of, let's say I had this component I was that I owned already that I was pulling in that wraps some npm package, and maybe it's by nature has to hit the server with some data, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I pulled that application or that component in rather, and buried in that component that existed, it was making XHR calls to the server, right? That wouldn't be ideal if I'm trying to bring that into a Livewire app, right? I'd almost want to structure things, I would think, to have like those inner components just emit events up, and then I can pull that in, and whatever the thing is pulling that in can decide what to do with those events, right? So that was one thing that crossed my mind. But anything in that realm, Josh, you've run into of like, hey, keep this in mind, maybe you might have an easier time with things?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think what has helped me in the so I have two kind of production applications, SaaS products that I've implemented MingleJS in, because I needed, one was a chart library that I needed to kind of display to my users, and then second was mostly because I wanted to use React Motion, which is now just Motion.js. And so I think the things that I would kind of reach for MingleJS for, or kind of like keep in mind, is usually what I was thinking through of when I actually create a MingleJS component is when I would otherwise be reaching for like an @script tag on my in my Livewire component, or maybe like using a bunch of Alpine.js for some very like client side stuff. A lot of times that is when I would, okay, let me just push this to React. So that way I know, okay, everything is on the client, and I'm writing code, or maybe like bringing libraries that is meant for that. One thing to keep in mind through that all is you still have the nature of, these are still separate components. So just like you would have two Livewire components, and if you haven't worked within Livewire extensively for some of this need, it can be tricky when you think, okay, I have this one component that needs to talk to two components, and one's lower down and one's higher up in the architecture of things. I always opt for personally using that dispatch to method, because most of the time I know the specific component that I need to do something with when something happens. But then Livewire, the good thing within MingleJS is the server side part is all Livewire. So all of the elements that you would expect within Livewire, maybe I need to talk to all child components or all parent components, then that's where I would kind of opt for that. But I think one thing to keep in mind within MingleJS, kind of similar to maybe like an Inertia app, where you have most of the time you're thinking, if it can be done in React or Vue or Svelte, it can be done in Inertia. Inertia is just the glue together, where MingleJS is kind of like the glue between Livewire, and now you just have a React or Vue front end. And so yes, it's Livewire can be a little bit tricky or sticky once you get, I have thousands of nested components. And so I would think to always keep in mind of when does a component actually need to be a component versus when can this be multiple components pushed into one, or maybe that's just a blade file, and then I have a specific component as well. So components can be tricky within Livewire, but I think within MingleJS, one of the things to always keep in mind is when do I actually need this to be specific client side, and then that helps me at least realize, okay, now this is where I could use that instead of Livewire.
Yeah, and I do think too, probably one of those things that there's no substitute for just trying it out and playing around with different patterns and seeing what clicks for you too, right? Absolutely. Again, another kind of general question here from the chat, but how does MingleJS affect the scalability of Laravel applications? Are there any limitations or considerations for high traffic applications? And there probably always are, but is there anything specific that comes to mind for MingleJS specifically for you, Josh?
Yeah, I don't think so, other than any options that you would think within a traditional Livewire application. So, again, a MingleJS component is a React Vue pushed into a Livewire island, if you will. And so I think the thing to keep in mind when it comes to scalability of Laravel applications or considerations for high traffic is what actually needs to go from server to client versus what can just stay on the client. And I think that's actually what MingleJS in a lot of ways might be more helpful to add to a Livewire application, where you can kind of bottleneck yourself within a Livewire application of maybe doing too much stuff on the server and not enough stuff on the client. And while yes, you can do all that within vanilla JavaScript in a Livewire component, I think that's what MingleJS might be. If you're used to doing client-side stuff, or you have an app that has high client-side interactivity, I think MingleJS can almost help with limitations or considerations for high traffic applications, because now you're instead of having to have all your users hit the server to get a progress bar, well, maybe you're pushing the progress bar and then just incrementally updating it and pinging and pulling the server within MingleJS as well. And so I think there's fantastic options to make the scalability aspect even easier within MingleJS, because you have that more distinct separation, I think, between server and client side.
Yeah, I guess like used responsibly, it allows you to, when needed, push more things to the user's browser and let the browser do more work and leave it off the server, right? I guess in a sense.
Yeah. Where like within a Livewire application, if I didn't render / echo out, everything for that, maybe I'm like for to-dos, maybe if I didn't render the users to-do, I wasn't pushing that out, it's not going to actually be pushed to that page. But within Mingle, now I have to actually think, okay, now I want to send all the information at once, and then kind of maybe this would be a great opportunity for like a table component, for example, where now I'm doing all of that heavy filtering and rendering and even maybe searching on the client side if it's not too long of a list.
Yeah, cool. All right. Any other questions from you, Margaret?
No, I guess also just thanks, Josh, for being able to, lower the barrier or just get people more excited about using MingleJS, and then also understanding like how supported everyone in the community is. Like Patricio is here too, answering questions in the chat I was looking at. And so just goes to show how close-knit everything is and how well connected the community is. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and actually, sorry, to piggyback on that, Patricio, I saw you in the chat as well. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for MingleJS. I was also thinking too, the one thing you mentioned, Josh, earlier was that it's MingleJS is not at 1.0 yet, right? So I'm sure there's lots of work going into it, has got into it. So I'm sure Patricio would love some assistance from the community, even just pulling the package down, trying it out, reporting bugs, contributing fixes, that sort of thing. So I'm sure if there's anything else you can add in the chat there, Patricio, but I'm sure the community would love to help you out if people are interested in this tool.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get too bombarded with everything now, but yeah, definitely. I think it's been beneficial for me to see what Patricio has been kind of putting out, and just like I said, that lazy component isn't even something that's documented yet, but I think he pushed that out last week, and I was
cool.
excited to look into it.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, Josh, and kicking off our 2025 year here at the Laravel Worldwide Meetup. Before we let you go here, was there anything else for you that you wanted to share?
No, yeah, I don't think so. Other than I'm going to be talking at LaraCon India as well in March, in March 8th and 9th in Ahmedabad. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, super excited. My first time to India. So for those who are here, super excited to be there with everyone who might be going to LaraCon India. But yeah, be on the lookout. If you're not able to go to LaraCon EU, be on the lookout for what's happening in this next week at LaraCon EU, because there's a lot of awesome announcements. Taylor has already kind of posted that the release date for Laravel Cloud is going to be announced at LaraCon EU. So be on the lookout for that.
Very cool. Yeah, there were actually some other questions in the chat about what's coming in Laravel version 12 and Laravel Cloud, which understandably people are excited about. So stay tuned. I think that's the best advice. Check out LaraCon EU next week, and probably some or all of those answers or questions will be answered. So.
It will be live streamed.
Awesome. Cool. All right, Josh. Well, thanks again. We're just gonna let you go backstage, and then Margaret and I just have a couple of housekeeping items to wrap things up here for this month. So thanks again.
Thanks so much, Josh.
All right, and there we go, Margaret. So just like I said before, we head out. A couple things we want to touch on before next month.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks so much, Dan. So again, big thanks to Josh. For our next meetup, you can join us on February 25th, 2025 at 12 p.m. We have another core Laravel member joining us, Joe Dixon. So I saw some questions in the chat about Laravel Cloud. If you'd like to tune into our next meetup, there'll be a lot of conversation about that. So please join us then. And if you haven't joined our JetBrains Giveaway rules, you can please scan this QR code to have the form to fill out your information to be eligible to win one of our prizes. So just put this on here if anyone wants some time to read the rules.
Just leave that QR code up for a moment.
And again, if you haven't followed us on X yet, you can follow our official channel, Laravel WW Meetup, and you can stay up to date with all the upcoming events and never miss a single one. And again, you can check us out on our official website, meetup.laravel.com, to sign up for email reminders about what we got going on over the next month. So you can do so there. And then again, thanks for watching us on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for any notifications. And this is where you can find all of our other meetups from last year. We did 12 last year, and we're trying to do one a month. So please join us on the Laravel YouTube channel.
There it is.
Awesome.
And with that, that concludes our January 2025 edition of the Laravel Worldwide Meetup. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks once again, Josh, for joining us and taking us on a dive into MingleJS. Anything for you, Margaret, before we sign off?
More so, if anyone else wants to contact us on X about any future talks or speakers they'd like to hear from, we'd love to hear from you. And thanks again for supporting this meetup and watching us and giving us comments and feedback. Love hearing it all. So thank you so much, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see everyone at the end of February. Bye now.